Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be looking at this movie here, made back in 2003, and this is Takeshi Kitano's sort of remake of Zatoichi. So, well, I say remake, more of a revival as such. Now, I'd started to review the Zatoichi movies way back when. I will be finishing that for you guys. I've just got a lot of movies to get through. I have started them. I've also started the Lone Wolf and Cub movies. And so they've still got, as I say, hundreds and hundreds of movies to get through, especially in terms of like Japanese and Hong Kong movies. But we're going to be having a look at, say, the 2003 Zatoichi today. I will try and get through a lot more of Takeshi's work as well, along with the likes of sort of Violent Cop, Boiling Point, Hanabi, my favourite film of his, Kikujiro. I mean, the man is a masterclass director. He really is. Now, you have to remember, like, this movie here, talking of Zatoichi. I mean, some people say, I've heard people say Zatoichi. I'm sure that's probably acceptable as well, but I've always said Zatoichi. So you have to remember, like, with this being made in 2003, I mean, it was much more like, I think it had a much more worldwide release in 2004. There was a certain, with that time, 2004, there was a certain film franchise that was happening in that period between 2003 and 2004 and in cinemas, and that was Kill Bill. So a lot of Western audiences who saw this, it was likely their first introduction to sort of Takeshi's work, because everybody was sort of on a martial arts trip. If you remember that period, sort of from like when The Matrix come out and Crouching Tiger, to the around about the time Kill Bill come out, everybody seemed to be getting into sort of martial arts movies, right? There was Shaolin Soccer, there was House of the Flying Daggers, there was Zatoichi. There was loads of films coming out around that point that were very sort of, just catering to that sort of kung fu martial arts crowd. And I'd say, I think with Zatoichi, this was a lot of people's first introduction to his work and definitely their first formal introduction to The Blind Swordsman. Apparently he was approached by others to make this movie, and it's very much a modern tribute, not just to Zatoichi, but sort of samurai and period television shows and dramas. So is this film any good? Some people say it's perfect and a masterclass in filmmaking, whereas Zatoichi fans like myself feel, whilst being a good film, it does feel somewhat lacking in certain places. I enjoy this movie a lot. I think it's a very well made film, but I think it's lacking in certain places. I think the idea here was not to just do a retread of Zatoichi, but take some of them basic components and put sort of a modern spin on it, or sort of just at least bring it up to date as best as possible. And what it does well is he injects the humour into the film, but he does miss out on some of the heart of what made Zatoichi's character so intriguing, played, of course, by Shintaro Katsu. And this is very much a Kitano movie, and whilst not perfect, there is a lot to be enjoyed here. Takeshi, is like refusing to play by anyone else's expectations, and I think to that end he should be applauded. And like I say, I love this movie. I think it's a fantastic effort. Talking about him as a director. The main thing I did have an issue with the movie is there's a lot of plot threads that seem to go nowhere, unfortunately. There's a lot of plot threads that they don't really pay off. They start and there's not really an end to them, or they're ended and it's sort of, okay, that's sort of over then, like that's finished then. Like a swordsman, an assassin with a dying wife that seems to go nowhere, a pair of siblings who are like grown up looking for vengeance, a group of samurai ruling with like sort of an iron fist over a town. They're all fine enough plot threads, but they don't seem to all mesh together that well. And it's almost like Takeshi's sort of taking sort of elements of a few of the movies, putting them in. We'll have like the lone swordsman on the road. We'll have these two siblings that want vengeance. We'll have this horrible gang that rule. These are all sort of like, that's basic components you need to make sort of a Zatoichi movie, but you didn't necessarily need all of them. I think sometimes it's better to develop one thing and do it really well, rather than just throwing in four things and hopefully one of them plots will be the one that sort of carries the film. Also, the Zatoichi in this is very quiet. He's wonderfully played by Takeshi, but his speech is very minimal, and some of the time he's actually looking for, like in this, but this Zatoichi, he's actually looking for a fight rather than sort of avoiding it. Whereas originally, sort of the Zatoichi the films of old, he would only fight if he had to. He'd only draw his sword if he had to. He wouldn't purposely go out looking for trouble. But the one here, he seems to be very much looking for bloodshed, or it seems like he is anyway. But all that aside, it's a very well made movie, don't get me wrong. I mean, make no mistake, this is a film from a great filmmaker, wonderfully shot, and whilst a fantastic revival, I've personally, if you love this movie, good for you. It's a fantastic revival, but unfortunately it's not every moment, to me personally, of the movie sort of pays off. So the movie opens with these men who want a kid to have sort of a kid to take like Zatoichi's cane as he is resting, as he sliced a few of their guys up. We also meet this assassin Hattori and his wife traveling, as well as these two geishas that are seeking revenge after the Naruto family was slaughtered. The Ginzo gang are collecting money from the poor. So you see what I mean? We have a wife and a husband travelling. We have two wanting revenge. This nasty group of villain, just all thrown in there right away. This is like, as soon as the film starts, it's just thrown in there. We get all our plot threads right at the beginning of the movie. Like, it's not we were introduced to them gradually. Every single plot and component to the narrative is sort of introduced right away. And there are some fantastic touches in the movie though, like the way the music syncs up with these farmers using their tools at one point, which I thought was quite cool. Ichi says it's like he stays at this woman's house as he helped her carry some vegetables, and we learn that the wife of Hattori is ill, and like he is going to become a bodyguard. And after showing off his skills, he waits for these men to come back with their boss after offering his services. And the whole notion being is he's trying to get money so his wife can be cured. As I say, he's got an ill wife, he's got a sick wife, he's willing to offer his services for like whoever can pay. So the clan need him so they can wipe out another clan, and their boss wants to know who killed Heihachi, who is someone the geishas killed earlier. And have to love when Ichi is on his way to gamble, and these two thugs want to test a new sword, and they've just bought, and he just like basically cuts this sword in half, like completely demolishes this sword. And we also learn that the lady is staying with had a nephew who has like a gambling problem. So the clan get their new bodyguard to kill some people. And of course, his wife doesn't want him doing this to get money, and again, unfortunately, it just follows into sort of. We've sort of seen this before, like it's nothing new. But the way it's shot is, like I say, very, very well done. But in terms of, I think the biggest like problem I have with the movie, not saying it's it's full of problems, but I just think some of the, like I say, the characters and the plot, it's so, yeah, we've been there, we've seen that, before. So, as I say, she wants him to find another way to get the money. Him and Ichi meet at an inn, and after his cane is accidentally revealed to be a sword beat like by one of the staff, he is like, "You are no ordinary masseur." In case you don't know, Zatoichi is also a masseuse. But as I say, we have the drama, and Takeshi does keep the film light-hearted despite his balance. And I think that's one thing I do love about the movie. There is like comedic moments throughout, despite all the bloodshed, despite all like sort of the violent sort of happenings that's going on. There is actually, and despite it being like 18 certificate, it is actually quite a light-hearted film. Dare I say that? I say he does keep it light-hearted. So there are comedic moments. And like we have the idiot neighbour's son who keeps running around the house half naked, thinking he's a samurai, which is quite funny. We also see Hattori go and reclaim his honour on a guy who beat him in the past with a wooden sword, but he is ill and not worth keeping. So he goes to sort of reclaim his honour. He goes to take this guy out, and he's sort of ill anyway, and he's not worth killing. So, see, things like that, I mean, they're all well and good, but they don't really go anywhere. Like, you think, he's going to get he's got to get justice on it, he's got to get payback on this dude. He gets there, and the guy's not worth killing because he's ill, and that's it. That's the end of that story. Doesn't really go anywhere, and it doesn't add nothing to the overall arc. So Ichi and Shinkichi, the nephew, are busy gambling and end up meeting the two geishas who try to kill them, which, of course, Ichi senses. One of them is actually a man, by the way. And we get the backstory of them as young kids and how their family got slaughtered. Basically, their family was killed for money. That's all you need to know. I'm not sure why they was going to kill Zatoichi and the nephew anyway. Because that's not who they want vengeance on. I suppose they was just going to kill them for the money, but no idea. But they sort of, these two and like the geishas, they sort of end up sort of helping each other out. So the film, like the originals, has a lot of quiet moments, and one Takeshi, when he does it well, he allows more than enough room for sort of breathing space. And a lot of the like the original Zatoichi movies, which I think sort of got better as they went along. But as I say, I think I've only reviewed on this channel. I think I've only done the first one. way back when, but I will get round to doing them all. But he does allow for breathing space in this movie, and I love Shinkichi trying to practice sort of gambling with his eyes closed, and I think he has it mastered, and he ends up sort of losing it all. The two geishas go to work for this guy. Ichi and Shinkichi go to gamble again, but Ichi aware they have switched the dice, and he just starts slicing them up, right? Zatoichi at this point just starts slicing these guys up. And like I say, the Zatoichi in this movie is just really bloodthirsty for some reason. I say Zatoichi of old, he would never reveal like his cane sword unless he had to. The one here, he's more than up for like, right, who wants some? And when it comes out here, you think it's the last thing you'd think he would do, and he just he just starts slicing into these guys. The geishas run away from their new employer, and Shinkichi offers them refuge after he spots them. They manage to escape to his aunt's, and he is known at the gambling house, so surely they would go looking for him and know where he lives. And I love when they're disguised, sort of trying to disguise who they are, and we see Zatoichi with the fake eyes drawn on his eyelids, and the way they cut to it at the end of the scene is quite funny, because it's just again keeping the mood light despite what is actually happening in the movie. We get a flashback into the geisha's past, how they grew up. The film for the most part is very slow paced, like the old Zatoichis are. They are very slow paced. I would even go as far as say that by and large the film is quite casual viewing. I think it's actually quite, I don't want to say a relaxing film, that's the wrong word, but it's the kind of film you can just sit back and just enjoy. You haven't necessarily got to concentrate too hard with this movie, and it's quite, like I say, a casual watch. It's quite a relaxed, I say relaxed film. Ginzu thugs attack the gambling den. A samurai bouncer there dispatched 3 of the henchmen with ease. Hitori, their new bodyguard, is sent to deal with them all, which he does in fast, bloody, brutal fashion. Shinkichi, watching it, he sees all this from afar. And a lot of people have a problem with the CGI blood in this movie. But I think Takeshi, if I recall somewhere, he said he wanted it to be sort of over the top like that. I think I read or heard somewhere he wanted it to be sort of like a flower blooming or something like that. He wanted the blood to, or be similar to that or something along them lines. But yeah, a lot of people I've spoke to have a problem with the CGI blood, but I don't think it looks too bad. I've seen it done much worse in some films, so it's not, and it's used. I know there is quite a lot of violence in this movie, but it's not used that much. And it was around that time as well when, depending on your budget and whatever, hell, it's not like sort of John Wick now, when they can just do anything and it looks real and it's gory as hell. Then, like back in the day, it was sort of, sometimes it worked great, but sometimes it wasn't always guaranteed, like the CGI and the blood was going to pay off. So a lot of the scenes, just when you want more, expect more. There's going to be more. There isn't. You expect there's going to be something, but then it actually you think there's going to, even like with dialogue, you think there's going to be more dialogue or the conversation's going to go on, but no, it just sort of fades out in some scenes. The main boss wonders if their new mission could take, their new mission with their new assassin, if he could take on Zatoichi. And I love when Shinkichi is trying to teach them youths combat, and it's probably the funniest scene in the movie. And he's like, "Attack me," and they all hit him, and he's like, "I didn't mean all at once." Even when they plan the sequence of moves, they work out the moves that they're going to do, and even then they still are hitting him. And this guy, for the most part, steals the movie. He is the funniest thing in the movie. So the geishas go back into town as they want to find out a guy who was part of their family's massacre. And they have to meet him through the innkeeper, and he has done the dirty on them, sort of grassing them up. And as smart as they are, they revealed where they are staying and that Zatoichi is there. So why they'd done that, I have no idea. Because I thought they'd sort of formed an alliance with Zatoichi at this point, but they sort of, it's not like they purposely said to get him in trouble, but despite with everything that's happened so far, don't you think you'd probably keep that hush hush, wouldn't you keep that quiet? So not only that, but the clan then proceed to set fire to the aunt's house looking for Ichi. Thanks geishas, really smart move revealing where Zatoichi was and everything like that. Why not just keep quiet about where you are staying? And this is obviously not the kind of inn where people are to be trusted anyway. So luckily Zatoichi is on the road at this point. The geishas walk right into a trap, and I love how Ichi's sword comes right through the gate at one point, killing one of the guards. So Zatoichi has come to the geisha's rescue. He slaughters the men in amazing fashion, and they go to get Hitori. Randomly, Ichi just finds him by the beach. His wife has sort of taken her own life, and Ichi sort of disposes of him with ease. And this is what I mean about whilst everything is there and in place in terms of plot and characters, none of it really pays off in the end. It's like, it's there. It's like, tick, yep, we got that. Tick, we got that. Yep, we got the blood. Yep, we got the siblings wanting, payback on this horrible gang. We got the swordsman on the road who's got like sort of the dying wife, and it's everything's in place. It just none of the plots and nothing what happens sort of pays off in the end. I mean, if you compare this, talking of I know I've reviewed the first movie, but if you compare this to the first movie, Tale of Zatoichi, where he befriends a swordsman with tuberculosis, where he is ill, yet the two know it is like sort of inevitable that they have to fight, and that carries a lot more weight than what like sort of Ichi's rival does in this movie. The fact is, like I say, that first movie, it's a wonderful movie. It's, even just for like looking at it as a drama, which in many ways the Zatoichi films are. But the way these two swordsmen who are on different sides, but they respect one another, they can have polite and dignified conversations, but they know eventually that one of them has got to die, but one of them is ill, and that carries a lot more weight than what it does in this movie. So the boss of the gang we see dead in a lake, and then it is sort of morning. The aunt's house is being rebuilt, and all the bandits are dead. We catch up with Zatoichi slaughtering some ninjas as he finds the innkeeper, and he's like, "How did you find me?" To which he replies, "Your stench, it never goes away." Which I quite like that line. And it turns out he is like the Kuchinawa boss. He's like the boss of the people, and he slaughters him and reveals he is actually not blind, right? At this point, you're like, what? Zatoichi, that's the character. He can't not be blind. Like, that is the prime, nothing else. That is what Zatoichi, sums up the character. That defines the character, and so he says he's not blind and pretends he's just he pretends to be blind just to sense people better. To it, I was just like, say what? Like, you can't be serious. You cannot be serious. Then it turns out, sort of the other guy at the end was the real boss, Ichi goes to see him, he slices his eyes, making him blind, saying death is too good for you, and the film ends on an amazing sort of song and dance, Japanese tap dancing showcase, which many felt was very out of place, but I think it's worth seeing for the film alone. Like, when you watch that end, this sort of dance with some of the cast involved, and it's quite epic in nature, the way it builds and builds, but it ends on like this, like I say, this Japanese sort of tap dancing showcase, which for whatever reason I think fits in perfectly. Do not ask me why. Totally random, totally not needed, but why not throw it in anywhere. So the aunt is there, the geishas, etc. It just builds and builds, and you can't help but smile when you watch it. We then get one last shot of Zatoichi, who reveals that even with his eyes open, he can't see a thing. Like, now that is the Zatoichi I know. And, so not sure why they had to make him blind, then not blind, then blind again. So it turns out he is actually blind after all that. But anyway, thought that was a bit unnecessary. And whilst a fantastic effort from Takeshi Kitano, and the film does encompass that, Zatoichi feel. It just, unfortunately, it's in its plot threads that let the film down, especially when comparing it to sort of the classic movies, which to me would just done so much better. But that aside, it's still a great attempt, and it's wonderfully directed in that Kitano style, and it's still very much worth checking out. And like I say, the film is actually, despite the violent nature, it's actually quite a relaxing watch. It's actually quite a chilled watch, and it's really simple to follow. It's not like you got to keep tabs of loads of characters, and you can, like I say, you can just go with it. Does have a lot of comedic moments, probably more than is needed, but there's a lot of quite a handful of moments in this movie that did make me laugh. But let me know if you've seen Zatoichi, or if you've seen any of the originals as well, like what your favourite Zatoichi movie is. I will get round to reviewing the originals. I do want to go through them all for you guys, because I've got loads of things to say about them. But let me know if you've seen the 2003 sort of remake, rehash, revival of Zatoichi, and let me know what you thought. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.